in my domain, got the whole crowd screaming out our name. It's a blowout, it's a hurricane, it's over before you know it. While you shaking, we're a dynasty in the making. We're the royalty, now we're breaking down the enemy. Move over for the soldiers. Take a swing, I can take a hit. If we die, it's fine, we live for this. It's all for this. We're gonna stand on top with our hands in the sky. Gonna raise our cup to the stadium lights. For the glory, for the glory. We celebrate with the city tonight. Hear the hometown cheer, it's the ultimate high. For the glory, we do it for the glory.
12 drivers enter, only 8 will leave, still in the hunt for the championship. Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome here to Kentucky Speedway as we get ready here for race number 23, or more importantly, chase race number 3 of Season 4 of the NCAA Pizza Hut X Series. It's the first elimination race of the season for the Pizza Hut X Series drivers. They started out at Chicagoland, they went to Indianapolis, and now we're here at Kentucky, where we will be determining the first 4 drivers that will be eliminated from the playoffs when the checkered flag waves. Up to this point, we have not had a Pizza Hut X Series driver that's in the playoffs go to victory lane at either Chicagoland or at Indianapolis, which means that it's basically down to points coming into this race unless we end up having a playoff driver go to victory lane here tonight. But it's going to basically be a point scenario of who's going to be moving on to the next round of the playoffs and who is not. Basically, the goal for all these drivers is to be 8th or higher in the point standings once this race comes to a close. And right now, there are a couple of drivers that come into this race in a very good position of moving on to the next round, even if they have a slightly bad run here today. M McIntire comes in the points leader. His gap back to 8th place, which right now is D Shears, is 40 points. Second in the points is Canario. He is 31 points away from 8th in the standings. And J Llamas comes into this race 35 points ahead of, 25 points, I should say, ahead of 8th in the standings. So those 3 drivers, they can have a mediocre run today. They can't have a dead last finish, but they can have a mediocre run here today and still move on to the next round. But then it gets really close from there on down. Why don't give you the point scenario here as quickly as we can before the command. J Lopes comes in this race 4th in points. He is only 14 points ahead of the cut line. M Davidson is 5th. He's only 10 points ahead of the cut line. 7 points ahead of the cut line are S Roush and A Eisestein. They're tied for 6th. We mentioned D Shears comes in that critical 8th position in points. And the drivers behind him, Carson Gum, he is 1 point behind the cut line in 9th. Chris Dollerton is 2 points behind the cut line in 10th. Seth Cole, 2 points behind the cut line in 11th. And Joshua Osborne is only 3 points behind the cut line in 12th. So any one of those drivers, Shears, Gum, Dollerton, Cole, Osborne, they could automatically move up into the top 8 with a good run here tonight. Let's go down and get that command.
Drivers, start your engines!
And you may have noticed on our starting grid that 3 playoff contenders are starting up inside of the top 10. Roush on the pole, Canario back in 5th, and D Shears, who comes in that critical 8th position in points. He'll start this race from the 6th position, so we'll have to see with all that pressure how he'll be able to do here tonight. Everybody is going to be gunning for that number 7 here this evening, but Roush and Eisestein, they're not out of the woods yet either. You can look down in the description below for the full starting lineup for this race and see where the other playoff contenders are starting. I see a couple of them mid-pack, including Osborne, Gum, and Cole. Llamas, I think, is starting from 12th. If you didn't tune into our Kentucky race here for the Hershey's Cup Series drivers, inside line's the preferred line through 1 and 2. Outside line, the preferred line through 3 and 4. And sometimes the outside line can get enough of a run out of turn 2. to play a factor as well. So we'll see how the different lines work. I don't know if they'll make it the full 41 laps on fuel either, so that could be an interesting scenario if they cannot make it the entire 41 scheduled laps. But here we go. Who will be moving on to the round of the Elite 8 for the chase? We'll find out as the green flag's in the air here at Kentucky. Let's roll. Scott Roush out to the early lead. He wants to at least get himself a bonus point for leading a lap, so that will put him another point ahead of 8th position in the points. As here comes Joshua Hyatt, though, with a big run on the inside through 3 and 4. Maybe on cold tires, that inside line can get some grip on the 3 and 4 area, but you saw right there Christian Merrick Jr. make a very quick move, crossover to the inside of Hyatt after getting the run off the turn 4 exit. Roush will lead the first lap, and the outside line kicks in very quickly out of turn 2 for Joshua Hyatt. He'll hold on to 2nd place. Merrick back to 3rd, Canario right there in 4th place. Basically, for Llamas, Canario, for McIntire, they just got to be consistent here tonight. Just run their race, don't get into trouble, finish as decently as they can, and they'll move on to the next round. Here comes the 92 of Hyatt to the inside for the top spot. He got a big run down the front straightaway. But using that middle groove with the good corner exit, Scott Roush going to hold on to the spot. Mentioned that coming into this race, none of our Pizza Head X Series playoff drivers are locked into the next round due to Chicagoland's race going to Eli Bright, and then last time out in Indianapolis, the teammate to Eli Bright, Diego Yepez, picking up his 2nd win of the season. We actually got word about Diego Yepez heading into next season that he will be back here in the Pizza Head X Series, but he will be driving the number 19 Cooper Standard Ford Mustang for Smart Motorsports. Smart Motorsports is a 3-truck team over in the Track Slayer Truck Series, as the caution flag is out for the first time here tonight, and it takes place at the completion of lap number 4. So that changes up a lot. Field will all get wound back up together, and more importantly, did we have any playoff drivers get collected up in this one? Looks like the incident took place on the exit of turn 2 all the way down here to the entrance of turn 3. Someone went for a very, very long slide. We're going to stay with the leaders and see if they're going to come to pit road here, because like I said, I didn't know if they were entirely good to go 41 laps on fuel or not. Maybe they'll come to pit road and get fuel here. Nope, they're not coming to pit road. All right, let's take a look and see who would have been involved in this wreck. And Quentin Moore in the 89 is on pit road. And is that Chris Dollerton with damage? That's one of the drivers that comes into this race outside of the playoff grid top 8, and he's got damage on his machine. And he's coming to pit road. We're going to keep tabs on this. A couple more drivers on pit road, too. One car just went through the grass. I think that might have been Lopez in the 34. Jackson's on pit road, along with Daniel Olson. Chelsea Bowles, problems for the 31. Angel Navarro's also on pit road. I don't know what the 31, what's happened to Chelsea Bowles, but her car has shot out of pit road and is sitting on pit lane, and now gets the car fired up. We're keeping tabs on the 34 of Lopez back there. He's coming off pit road, and it looks like Dollerton, they're also going to get that car fixed and get him back out there, which is very important for these playoff drivers, most importantly, Chris Dollerton. I think the 89 might have had to teleport to pit road, so he might be a lap down. I'm not certain. There's Navarro, there's Chelsea Bowles, Olson. So it looks like this might have been a multi-car wreck. We didn't really realize it. The skid marks certainly don't tell that kind of a tale. Lopez, Jackson, George, they're down and away, and Chris Dollerton is going to leave pit road. So he's going to continue, and he's going to hope and pray that drivers like Shears, Shears, Gum, Cole, and Osborne have something happen to him during the course of this race. Early woes for Chris Dollerton as we're under caution for the first time here today at Kentucky. Let's go and take a look at a replay. Another playoff contender that had a problem we didn't know about, Mark Davidson in the 29. As a matter of fact, this is going to start with him. Ryan George gets into his left rear quarter panel. Davidson down into Jordan Lopez, and then watch this. Davidson back up into the wall, and the hit he's going to get right here from Quentin Moore is going to be enough to flip his car over onto the left side. or on his right side, I should say. Then he goes back over and begins barrel rolling. So that's why the skid marks were all the way down to turn 3. And then Chris Dollerton trying to find where the 29 is going to slide to and just picks the wrong spot. And I believe Mark Davidson is smoking. I think that car may be done. Remember, Davidson came into this race only 10 points ahead of the cut line. And if he's out of the race, Mark Davidson could be making a very early exit from the playoffs. And I think he's done for the day. Lights have just gone out atop the pace car, so we'll go back green on lap 9 of 41. 3 playoff drivers were involved in that wreck in one way or another. Davidson, Dollerton, and Lopez. And all of them are within that window of either moving in or falling out of the playoffs. So let's see where everybody's going to be restarting. Looks like Quentin Moore is a lap down, so he'll restart to the inside of the leaders. Roush will be the leader when we go back green. Canario is in 3rd. Shears in 6th. Llamas in 9th. The rest of the drivers that fill in the spots got Hyatt starting 2nd. C Merrick Jr. and Jake Rogers 4th and 5th. G Sydnor in 7th, Baranauskas in 8th, and Jessica Miles in 10th. Where are the rest of the playoff drivers? Well, you got to go down to Carson Gum in 16th, teammate Seth Cole in 17th. Further down to find Matt McIntire in 23rd, Eisestein in 25th. Osborne's back in 30th. He needs to pick it up here in this run. Lopez will restart 36th, Dollerton in 39th. And indeed, out of the race is the car of Mark Davidson. So Davidson is in big trouble if a number of other drivers behind him in the points are able to pick up some spots here, namely drivers like Roush, Eisestein, Shears, Gum, Dollerton, Cole, Osborne. Gonna have to wait and see. Green flag back in the air here for Scott Roush. Roush is one of, I believe, 3 drivers that have 2 wins this season. Nathan Hudson, and of course last week J Yepez joined the ranks of that. Roush trying to become the first 3-time winner this season in the Pizza Hut X Series, and more importantly, getting himself an automatic locked up spot into the round of 8. Let's drop back and see about Lopez and Dollerton, see if those two who were involved in that wreck, they are up to speed or not. Dollerton apparently not. Lopez appears to be. Oh my goodness, wow! Did you see that? 3 wide into a very scary looking 4 wide. Ashlyn Boyd was in the middle of that, along with, looked like Phil Parker. Matt McIntire was in that too. And a lot of this is because they're all kind of held up by the 89 of Quentin Moore. You've got Seth Cole in this group as well. Let's keep tabs on this area here, because this does not look friendly. Oh my goodness, they're leaning on each other 4 wide down the back straightaway. And Seth Cole is getting held up in that line behind Quentin Moore. He is losing valuable spots, and he's one of the drivers that came in an elimination spot. So that is not good right now for the 66 and his chances of moving on to the next round of the playoffs. He's going to have to try and regroup and get himself back up there, at least to mid-pack. Still stuck behind Quentin Moore. He's going to lose a spot there to Chelsea Bowles and Jay Jefferson, and we know the 31 of Chelsea Bowles is somewhat damaged and off the pace. Now Seth Cole clears Quentin Moore, but he's lost a ton of spots. Matt McIntire back here, I think he got held up by the 89, but like we said, he's got a pretty good gap coming into this race to be able to move on to the next round. Jordan Lopez just ahead of his teammate Ryan George, making good strides as his teammate leads this thing. And one driver I said needed to pick it up there, Joshua Osborne in that restart, he did. He restarted back, what was it, like 36th, 37th? And now he's up to the 20th spot, so good job on that restart for Osborne, trying to get himself into the playoffs. Just ahead of him is the 3 of Aubrey Eisestein. Now there's Carson Gum. He came into this race only 1 point behind Dougie Shears, so he's got his sights set on the 7, which is not too far ahead. Dougie Shears maybe about 5-6 cars ahead of him. There's Cody Llamas ahead of Nathan Hudson. With Nathan Hudson not making it into the playoffs, the official word was given that next year Nathan Hudson will be driving the number 1 from Michael Norman Motorsports, taking over from Chris Dollarton, who's moving up to the number 83 in the Hershey's Cup Series for CJ Racing. Good battle up here for the lead, though. Joshua Hyatt trying to do everything he can to get around Scott Roush, and in the meantime, Canario is all over his back bumper for second place. And D Shears doing what he's got to do. He's up inside of the top 5, looking good. So right now, maybe it's not D Shears that Carson Gum needs to worry about. I mean, obviously, if he can get around D Shears, that would put him past Shears and into a playoff spot right now, but maybe someone like A Eisestein or Mark Davidson is someone that Carson Gum has to concentrate on. The gap between Carson Gum and Davidson was only 11 points, and the gap between himself and Eisestein is only 8 points. Carson is currently running in the 12th position. Eisestein's back in 18th, so right now by 3 points, Eisestein is over the 99, but there's still a ways to go in this one. And to be honest, I wasn't expecting to see a caution during this race, and we've already had one of those, including a car flipping. But out of the drivers that came into this race in the 4 elimination spots, Carson Gum, Chris Dollarton, Seth Cole, and Joshua Osborne, Carson Gum is the highest running of those 4. So if a driver is mathematically able to pass Mark Davidson to get into the next round of the playoffs, Carson Gum right now would be that driver. And right now, the only other driver I think that would have maybe a ghost of a shot with the way they're running right now would be Joshua Osborne. He would have to get by Carson Gum, be ahead of him by 3 positions. Because Seth Cole got held up by Quentin Moore, we saw in that restart, and Chris Dollarton got involved in the wreck, the only caution that we've had, and we saw clearly was off the pace. So Dollarton may be very quickly the first driver officially eliminated from the playoffs. Mark Davidson could very quickly become a second. Seth Cole potentially a third, and it may be down to Shears, Gum, and Osborne as to who's going to be moving on. Drivers trying different lanes here, inside, outside, but both lanes seem to be rather equal to each other. Inside line gets the advantage on entry, outside line gets the advantage on exit, so nobody really able to get an advantage on the other in these battles of side-by-side. Got a battle now for 5th between Baranauskas and Christian Merrick Jr. as Cody Llamas and G Sydnor are side-by-side. That's for 7th. Llamas going to have to give the spot up there as Sydnor gets the run on the top side. Llamas looking really good, though. Did not have the great start to round 1 at Chicagoland, but battled back with a really solid outing, a top 10 last week at Indianapolis, and it puts him in a good spot coming into this race. Right now, running inside of the top 10. Llamas looking like a surefire driver to move on to the next round, as is Canario, and we haven't seen Matt McIntire get up here to the front, but like I said, he had a pretty good points gap coming into this race. I think he'll move on to the next round as well. So right now, I think with where they're running, 3 drivers confirmed to move on to the next round, as well as Scott Roush, since he's out in front leading this race. There's the 99 trying to make strides. Carson Gum trying to get around the outside of Steve Morgan. That'd be another position he would pick up. You see further back there the 70 of Joshua Osborne trying to get up here. Now right now it looks like Carson Gum will be the driver that would move in with Mark Davidson out. So Osborne's only hope right now is that someone else ahead of him, maybe like A Eisestein or Scott Roush, and he'd be able to pass them. Now what about the 34 of Jordan Lopez? There's a battle that could be between driver trying to get in and a driver trying to stay in. Lopez back to Osborne. The gap was 17 positions. So where's Osborne at? He is back in 21st. He needs the 34 to be running 39th or worse. Right now he's running in 31st. Right now, I don't think that Lopez would be out just yet. He would would still be ahead of Osborne in the standings. So either Osborne's got to gain more spots, or he has to hope that Lopes loses more spots. There's Chris Dollerton going into turn 1. The leaders just hit the start-finish line, so Chris Dollerton's going to be reeled in very quickly and put a lap down, which I think is going to eliminate any hopes he's going to have of picking up spots here and maybe getting a last-ditch effort into the next round of playoffs. So a tough break there for Chris Dollerton, who had a really strong regular season, but playoffs just were not in his favor. He had a somewhat decent run at Chicagoland, but last week at Indianapolis, a lot of his momentum was killed when he was caught up in a wreck. And we're going to have to see if maybe, depending on where the leaders catch the one, if maybe Joshua Hyatt, D Shears, they may have a little bit of a thought of trying to use the one as a pick to take the race lead. You can hear the engine, the idling engine of the Houston Astros Chevrolet just up ahead. Leaders will probably catch him within the next 2 to 3 laps. I also noticed right there, Joshua Hyatt ran a half groove lower than Roush. Shears ran a half groove lower than Hyatt. They're having some thoughts about maybe trying to make a move here on Scott Roush when they catch up to Chris Dollerton. They want to see if their car is going to stick on the bottom of the racetrack. Single file all the way back through the top 10. Well, as soon as I say that, Cody Lamas the inside of G Sydnor for 7th. Oh, we got 2 cars that they're going to have to deal with. Lap car of Quentin Moore as well as Chris Dollerton. So that's going to make it even crazier up here at the front now. One car was way up high. That's why we got pit stops. So we do have pit stops here in this race. So it is going to be a pit strategy race. Cody Lamas was on pit road. I couldn't tell who the other car was just ahead of him. But this is going to make things very interesting here, as we're going to have about 10 laps to go. In a couple of laps, Roush tries to get to the inside of Quentin Moore, can't do it. And now may end up giving up and coming to pit road. No, instead, going to stay out. It's now D Shears on pit road. Oh, we got a car through the grass. That was Sydnor. I think he got on okay, though. Oh, did we have a wreck? I saw some contact between, I think it was teammates. Oh, Osborne got just spun on pit road. Contact with M McIntire. J Qualls is also spun. Was that enough for a caution? It was on pit lane, though. No caution. We're still green. Osborne with contact with M McIntire. None of the top 5 coming to pit road, but there comes some more. Rogers, Baranauskas, Carson Gum, Steve Morgan, Kyle Langeland, Z Flickinger, Eli Bright, Phil Parker, Ben Braley, Seth Cole all on pit road. So the top 5 have not come to pit lane. Roush, Hyatt, Canario, and now 3 of them are in. And one of them stayed out, and I believe that was... Oh, no, those were the lap machines. My apologies. I think Olson just stayed out. So Roush is in with Hyatt, Canario, and Gray. But the race lead just got turned over to the 32 of Daniel Olson, with Lopes now up to 2nd. Jackson 3rd, Ryan George 4th. Correct me if I'm wrong, I think a number of these drivers came to pit road under our only caution, so they were able to make it a little bit further. They all pitted back on lap 5. I think Angel Navarro, who's in 5th place, also was on pit road back on lap 5. So these drivers about 4 to 5 laps good on fuel than the rest of the drivers that came to pit road. And until they have to come to pit road, or unless they don't, I can't really do a lot of the calculations of the points of who would be in and who would be out. I don't know, are these drivers maybe good to go the rest of the way? Could they have saved enough under pacing? It's possible. Olson looking for his first Pizza X Series victory. So is Ryan George. So is Charles Jackson. Lopes, on the other hand, he's looking for his 2nd win of the season, and obviously his win will give him an automatic ticket to the next round of the playoffs, plus 3 playoff points into the reformatted next round standings. They got a deal now with the 89 of Quentin Moore, the 1 of Chris Dollerton. Olson will get to the inside. Olson trying to get Fitzwater Australia Racing their second win of the season. As Chris Dollerton playing havoc here, they're going to go 3 wide for the lead between Olson and Lopez. Looks like Olson will get the spot though. The only other win that Fitzwater Australia Racing has this season is Chelsea Bowles back at Hillside. Trouble! The leader just got wrecked by Jordan Lopez. Caution! Caution is out. They were coming to pit road. Olson got dumped by Lopez. Yellow flag waves. Ryan George stayed out. And this is going to shuffle the field up big time. As right now, according to the scoring, only 5 drivers are currently on the lead lap due to the fact that Ryan George is still out on track. Now, he'll come to pit road this time, but I think Scott Roush would restart behind the leader in the 6th position. That just really messed up the standings. Maybe George won't even come to pit road. No, he is going to come to pit road. I was going to say maybe he could save enough to be able to make it. I think we will get back green as well, but I don't have a clue who's going to be leading now. Olson's got more damage, though. So does Lopez, so it will be probably somewhere between Navarro, Jackson, and the car you're looking at, Ryan George, as to who's going to be the leader. They're just going to get that car with a little bit of fuel and get him out there. Ryan George trying to cycle back around still as the race leader. And if he picks up his first win of the season this way, that would be an unbelievable way. I mean, they've been trying so hard to get this 4 to victory lane for the past 2 seasons. Maybe, just maybe, tonight is the night. We'll have to see if he restarts out in front or not. For now, let's see what brought out that yellow flag. Well, I think we kind of saw this in our Hershey's Cup Series race here as well. If I recall correctly, Benny Watson got wrecked due to an incident very much like this. Already Daniel Olson is down way on the bottom of the track. I think he's already indicating, I'm coming to pit road. I'm coming to pit road. Gets on the brakes, and I don't think Jordan Lopez was going to come to pit road, and he went right down behind the 32. To be honest, that was on Lopez, because Olson was right down at the bottom of the track. I mean, how much further down can you get, indicating you're coming to pit road, and Lopez just ran him over. You saw right there Quentin Moore got into the spinning 32 as well. I think there may be some words between Lopez and Olson when this one's over, because there's no doubt in my mind Olson was given a clear indication he was coming to pit road, and Lopez moved down low and just ran him over. He could have very easily moved up high and given him room if he was planning on staying out an extra lap, and that was not the case. So we'll see who cycles around as the race leader. Lopez has now got damage, so that could hurt him even more in terms of whether he's going to make it onto the next round or not. We're going to have to wait and see. But that's what brought out the yellow flag. Let's go back for the restart. I have a feeling it's going to be very jumbled up. Alright, like I said, when it showed 6th place on down, -1 lap, when that caution came out, I told you more than likely we were going to have Scott Roush restart behind the pace car but still be scored in 6th place. You are looking at the current race leader, Charles Jackson, in the 55. Navarro behind him is 2nd. Olson is 3rd, Lopez in 4th, Ryan George in 5th. They're all at the tail end here, but they are your top 5. Scott Roush is 6th, and he's up at the front of the field. So we're going to be at the tail end of the field here in the closing laps, watching this battle. Lights are out atop the pace car. We're going to be going green next time. Let's find out where your playoff contenders restart. Lopez is now in 4th. Roush is in 6th. Canario will be 11th. We should mention everybody's on the lead lap for these drivers that are 6th on back, because they are ahead of, they got around the leader when he came to pit road. Eisestein 15th. Shears is 16th, so he lost some spots. Then you got Cody Llamas in 17th. Osborne is 23rd. Cole is 27th. Carson Gum all the way back in 33rd. He had a shot of making it into the next round. Looks like that may be up in smoke. And that's the last of the cars on the lead lap. And then you've got Chris Dollerton a lap down in 37th. Matt McIntire is a lap down in 39th place. And course, we already mentioned Mark Davidson out of the race after the first wreck. We've got 36 cars on the lead lap with 41 still running. And the car that should technically be scored right now in probably the 32nd, 33rd position is your race leader, Charles Jackson. So it's going to be Jackson, Navarro, and then the damaged cars of Olson, Lopez, and then Ryan George in the 4. They're going to settle it out with with a one-lap shootout rather, as the green flag is in the air. And it's going to be now Jackson and Navarro as they just broke away from third place. Which one of these two is going to win? Jackson already has a win this season. Navarro looking for his first. Down the back straightaway they go. Can Angel Navarro make a move on Charles Jackson here through 3 and 4? Coming to the checkered, it will be Charles Jackson with his second win of the season. He'll take the checkered flag here tonight at Kentucky. And there's going to be a lot of calculations to try and figure out who's moving on to the next round and who is not. Most importantly, who was the driver that was able to take advantage of the misfortune of Mark Davidson. Right now, something tells me it could very well have been Joshua Osborne. We'll have to wait and see. Well, Roush would have probably won this race if that caution hadn't come out when it did. Instead, with the timing of the caution, Charles Jackson sneaks away a win here tonight at Kentucky. All comes down to the timing of those yellow flags, especially in the middle of green flag pit stops. Jackson with the win, Navarro second, Ryan George third, Jordan Lopez, even though he got involved in that wreck, he managed to stay ahead of the leaders. So he'll get fourth, so Lopez, with a miracle caution, will move on to the next round. And Daniel Olson will bring it home in fifth. But again, like I said, I don't think the tempers are calmed down between the 34 and the 32 by a long shot. Scott Roush more than likely would have made it into the next round with a win, but instead he'll make it in the next round with a 6th place run. Joshua Hyatt will finish in 7th. 8th was Steve Morgan, Nathan Hudson 9th, and good run for Jake Rogers there in 10th place. What about the rest of the drivers that are going to move on? Well, you've got Ying Canario in 12th. He'll move on. Aubrey Eisestein 14th, she'll move on. Cody Llamas 15th, he'll move on. D Shears came in that critical position in points of 8th place. He's going to finish in 16th, so I believe he will move on to the next round of the playoffs. Now, the 4 drivers that came into this race outside of the top 8 were the likes of Carson Gum, Chris Dollerton, Seth Cole, and Chris Dollerton. None of them really ran well. Seth Cole was 28th, Carson Gum was 33rd, Dollerton 37th. And the only one that really had a decent outing was Joshua Osborne. So now we got to see if Osborne was able to make up the difference between himself and Mark Davidson. If he did, Osborne may have just snatched away the final transfer spot into the Elite 8. So Osborne finishes 22nd, Davidson in 42nd. That is a gap of 22 points that Osborne made up between himself and the 29. The gap between Davidson and Osborne coming into this race was a total of 13 points, which means Mark Davidson is out. Joshua Osborne will get the final spot in the Elite 8 in the battling for the championship, which means officially the 4 drivers that will not move on to the next round of the playoffs are going to be Carson Gum, Seth Cole, Chris Dollerton, and Mark Davidson. So it'll be McIntire, Canario, Llamas, Lopez, Roush, Eisestein, Shears, and Osborne that will head into round 2 of the Pizza Hut X Series chase for the championship. Their quest will continue at the super speedways of Madrid, Talladega, and then at Homestead, where we'll determine our final 4. Hope you guys enjoyed tonight's race. What an odd race it was with the timing of that yellow flag right in the middle of green flag pit stops. But if you enjoyed it, be sure to give this video a like, subscribe to become part of the crew today. We have shown your full figure results. These are your rookie points and your overall points heading into our next race in 2 weeks, the start of round 2 at Madrid. We got to finish out this weekend though. We had trucks last night at Oswego. We go back to Oswego tomorrow night for the Hershey's Cup Series first race, their second round of playoffs at the dirt track. Charles Jackson gets his second win of the season here tonight. We will see you guys at Oswego tomorrow night as you've been watching the production of the SRA Offline Racing at its best.